Welcome back to Outnumbered. Well, wealthy Democrats who financed President Obama's White House run are reportedly paying a lot of attention to Vice President Joe Biden, as he is now considering getting in the race. The Washington Post is reporting that a sizable number of top bundlers are growing pretty uneasy about Hillary Clinton and the controversy over her handling of emails as Secretary of State. So now Hillary's camp, fearing that those fundraisers could defect, is reportedly inviting them to a meeting in New York City to ease their concerns. In the meantime, Politico is reporting that Bill Clinton is, quote, very agitated by the possibility that Biden may challenge Hillary for the nomination, and incensed at the press hype around it. Okay, first, let's hit this point, Sandra, about donors. I do believe that donors are keeping their wallets pretty close to them, but that money could leave at any moment. And I think the more that she goes and the more these polls start to erode, which we'll get to in a minute, the donors could follow someone else.
The honesty and trustworthy numbers have been a huge concern. If you're a supporter of Hillary Clinton and you're worried about the general election, even a majority of Democrats who support her believe she will be hurt by this email scandal. I think for so long we were sitting on this couch every day saying, how's this not hurting her in the polls yet? And then it happened, Andrea, and it happened slowly, it happened gradually, but it's hitting her hard. And Democrats they're setting up and planning for Plan B. So why would you want to throw a bunch of money behind Hillary right now when so much can still change?
Well, and I want to focus on another report last night, Harris. It was from the Hill newspaper that's out of Washington, D.C., that said that Hillary just wants Biden to make the best decision for himself. And I thought, oh yes, isn't that sweet of her? Her motives are always completely altruistic, aren't they?
Oh, it's so nice. It's so sweet when someone thinks of someone else. You said something, though, that I don't hear people say often enough. The general election. Because we're so concentrated on Democratic voters, this is just the primary season. The general election is really where they're worried. Because, you know, if every Democrat in America voted, I guess that might be enough, but I don't think so. I think you're going to need some of those independents. I think you might even need a few of those people on the fence who are on the other side.
No question.
Right? So what does she have that's going to appeal if she's got trust deficit issues?
Right. And we're going to get in those polls in one moment. But Dr. Siegel, focus on Bill, the reports that he's agitated. I mean, from his perspective, this is her perspective. It's her turn. They waited last time. This time, they're not expecting her to have any trouble.
It seems to me they may have even made a behind-the-scenes deal when she became Secretary of State with this all in mind, that she was going to run for president. But I think, you know, Bill Clinton has always been able to have the deal-making aspect, but also people relate to him on a personal basis, Andrea. He has a lot of charisma. And I think the problem Hillary's having right now is what the American public seems to want is authenticity. That's why Trump is having the response he's having, even though he's saying ridiculous, outrageous things. He seems authentic. Also, we see that with Joe Biden, who just lost a son and grieved, and the country grieved with him. And on the Republican side, Jeb Bush, the Bushes have always been known for their integrity and their directness, and I think that that's an appeal to America right now.
Stacey, how could Bill possibly be agitated when the media coverage that Hillary's getting is of her own making?
Well, I think he's just having trouble with how do you deal with a sociopathic criminal wife. I really think that's his main issue right now. Forget the public. I'm feeling bad for him at this point, because that is exactly what she is. She's a criminal. She should be behind bars. I don't even know why we're talking about her. I'm sick of talking about her, by the way. I can't.
Well, don't get too sick
yet,
because she's our next topic as well, because we've got some new poll numbers. So not quite, just a couple more minutes, Stacey. And those interesting numbers I just mentioned on the race for the White House. In a new Quinnipiac poll, Donald Trump still crushing the Republican competition and has increased his lead by 8 points since last month. Among Democrats, Hillary is still on top, but down 10 points from July. And when asked for the first word that comes to mind when they hear Hillary Clinton, the voters' #1 answer, liar. Criminal's not up there, Stacey, but liar is also. We've got dishonest, untrustworthy, strong, and experience in the top 5 as well. When they hear Donald Trump, most people say arrogant, followed by blowhard, businessman, and clown. Those are in the top 5 as well. And for Jeb Bush, the top answer, Bush, with family and brother.
That's interesting.
Also in the top 5. Okay, Harris, you think that is very interesting.
Yeah, because what it points to is just the legacy of the family. And I guess in some ways that's a great thing because you have automatic name recognition. But if you're trying to be the first name rather than the last name, it's problematic. How do you separate yourself out from your family's history if you think you need to?
Stacey, not a lot of negative words up there on Jeb Bush. Donald Trump, he's a polarizing candidate. I won't ask you about Hillary Clinton. They're going to say negative things
about Trump.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to say something negative about Trump because he's saying everything that everyone else is afraid to say. And that's the truth. He says everything everyone else is afraid to say. He's not going to back down. And that's who you want to lead your country. But everyone's so used to having someone who apologizes, who doesn't speak to the press, who doesn't speak authentically, that they're now like, oh, whoa, what do we do with this?
Yeah.
Except for people like me who say this is what we want. We want somebody who's going to stand up and not take the crap anymore. Enough.
Any surprises with those adjectives, Dr. Siegel? I wasn't surprised. The only one I was surprised, like Harris, when I saw Bush was the #1 word associated with Jeb Bush, which I'm not really sure, again, what that means.
I think what that means, by the way, is it's not distinctively 41 or 43. Which Bush? It's the Bush family
Bush family
legacy.
If that's the point, that's the problem.
Yeah, you got to get past that in order to be elected. But look, the issue here again, I want to say, is authenticity versus criminality. As Stacey said, authenticity. Look at Ben Carson, #2 behind Trump there. What is Ben Carson? A pediatric neurosurgeon, not even a career politician. Maybe America is ready to say, career politicians are fooling us. We want somebody real.
That's right. Sandra, the adjectives I think that were probably most troubling were Hillary's. I mean, liar is #1. She's not credible, which means people aren't buying the excuses that she's making.
Yeah, we've known that for a while, but I guess the most negative word association was actually seen in Donald Trump, which is interesting considering he's still the front runner and showing up the best in the polls right now. And the least amount was for Jeb Bush, who's struggling in the polls. So I don't know why there's that disconnect there. But Hillary Clinton experience was the one positive, that word association that people had there. So her track record as Secretary of State is still going to be a major plus for anybody who chooses to support her, despite lack of acknowledgement of what her major accomplishment was as Secretary of State.
I do think they are polarizing adjectives that surround Donald Trump, but I think that's why he's doing well, because he's getting people talking. And so what if they think he's a blowhard? They think he's a blowhard.
Exactly.
That's not exactly a breaking news alert. But Jeb Bush is struggling because it seems that those adjectives, I don't know, that he's pretty boring. I mean, no one has a real strong opinion.
Well, with regard to Donald Trump particularly, and Ben Carson, who you mentioned, Dr. Carson, it also points to America's love affair right now with the idea of having an outsider. And if you look at the recent polling and who's moving up, Carly Fiorina, I mean, there's a pretty solid block in the middle there where people who are not necessarily, Ted Cruz is doing better. I mean, he may be in office, but he still seemed to have kind of an outside message by most voters that you ask. So it's interesting to see that love affair kind of grow even more. And I think these adjectives are just, they're not necessarily negative. They point out that Trump is different, or whomever is different.
I wonder how they describe Outnumbered. We should take a poll.
Must have.
Awesome. Someone just said in my ear. I don't know. Weigh in. Go on the chat right now.
Aggressive.
Aggressive. Awesome.
Winning.
Lovely.
All right. As kids get ready to go back to school, some of them may look a little bit different. The surprising number of teens that are going under the knife and what's behind all that. And as I just mentioned, if you would like to weigh in on how you would describe Outnumbered, put Outnumbered Overtime. Log on to foxnews.com. Click the Overtime tab. You can not just weigh in on what you think about us, but you can tweet us questions or comments, or if there's a topic you want to hear us be blowhards about, or what were some of the words? Not liars. We'll do it. Just log on now.